A little boy, tears streaming down his face, ran up to a group of bikers with a desperate plea. "Please," he begged, "you have to help me. You have to kill my stepdad." The bikers, stunned, looked at each other. What could possibly drive a child to say something so shocking? This is just one of the incredible stories we're diving into today. Stories where justice and humility are served in the most unexpected ways. We'll also witness the moment an arrogant officer tried to lecture the one and only Judge Caprio, only to receive a masterclass in humility he'll never forget. You think you know how these stories will end? Think again. What these bikers did next for that little boy will restore your faith in humanity, and what Judge Caprio said to that officer will have you cheering from your seat. Stick around because you are not going to want to miss a single second of this. Let's start with that little boy. His name was Chris, and he was only 6 years old. He'd seen these bikers, members of a group called Bikers Against Child Abuse, or BACA, at a local event. To him, their leather vests and loud motorcycles didn't look scary. They looked like strength. They looked like saviors. His home life was a nightmare. His stepfather, a man who was supposed to protect him, was instead his tormentor. Chris lived in constant fear, feeling trapped and invisible. One afternoon, after a particularly bad incident, Chris saw his chance. The bikers were gathered at a gas station just down the street. Mustering every ounce of courage he had, he slipped out of his house and ran towards them. When he reached the group, the words tumbled out in a desperate, tearful rush. "Please, kill my stepdad." The lead biker, a man they called Grizzly, knelt down to Chris's level. His voice, surprisingly gentle, cut through the rumble of the engines. "Whoa there, little man," he said softly. "That's a heavy thing to ask. Why don't you tell us what's going on?" Through sobs, Chris described the abuse, the fear, and the feeling of being utterly alone. The bikers listened, their expressions hardening not with anger at the boy, but with a cold fury directed at the man who was causing him so much pain. But they weren't killers. They were protectors. Grizzly looked at his crew, a silent understanding passing between them. They weren't going to grant Chris's dark request, but they weren't going to leave him either. They were going to do something much, much better. They immediately contacted the authorities, providing a safe and imposing presence for Chris while the police were called. They became his personal guardians. The bikers didn't just stop there. They escorted Chris to give his statement to the police, their bikes forming a protective motorcade around the police car. They stood outside the police station, a silent, powerful promise that this child was no longer alone. When his stepfather was arrested, the bikers were there. They even showed up at the courthouse for every single hearing. Imagine the scene, a line of intimidating bikers filling the courtroom benches, all for one little boy. They became his new family, his shield. They showed him what true strength and protection looked like. They didn't take a life, they saved one. They gave Chris his childhood back, proving that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear leather and ride motorcycles. Now let's switch gears from the roadside to the courtroom, where another kind of drama unfolds daily. This is the world of Judge Frank Caprio, a man known for his wisdom, compassion, and intolerance for arrogance. Our next story features a police officer who thought he could walk into Judge Caprio's court and throw his weight around. He was about to learn a very public lesson. The case was simple. A woman had received a parking ticket. However, she claimed the parking meter was broken. The officer who wrote the ticket was called to testify. He strode in with an air of absolute certainty, dismissing the woman's claim out of hand. "Your Honor," he began, his tone dripping with condescension. "The meter was functioning perfectly. I checked it myself. The defendant is simply trying to get out of paying her fine." Judge Caprio listened patiently, his eyes fixed on the officer. He asked a few clarifying questions. "Officer, did you happen to take a picture of the functioning meter? Is there any proof other than your word?" The officer scoffed. "With all due respect, Your Honor, I'm a police officer. My testimony should be enough. I don't need to take pictures of every single thing I do. I have a city to patrol." You could feel the temperature in the courtroom drop. Judge Caprio leaned forward slightly. "With all due respect, officer," he said, his voice calm but firm. In this courtroom, everyone is equal. Your badge doesn't make your word more valuable than that of this citizen right here. Your job is to present facts, not opinions or assumptions about someone's character. The officer's face reddened. He started to interrupt, but the judge held up a hand. Let me tell you something, Judge Caprio continued. I respect the badge. I respect the difficult job you do every single day, but what I don't respect is arrogance. I don't respect someone who uses their position to look down on others. This woman came here today, took time off work to plead her case. She deserves the respect of being heard, not dismissed. The judge then turned to the woman. Ma'am, do you have any evidence? She presented a short video on her phone, clearly showing the meter flashing an out-of-order message. The officer's jaw tightened. He had been caught in his own hubris. Judge Caprio looked back at the officer. The evidence, he said, pointing to the phone, tells a different story than your testimony. It seems you were mistaken. But the mistake isn't the issue. The issue is your attitude, your refusal to even consider that you might be wrong. He then delivered the final blow. A little humility goes a long way, officer. It makes you a better officer and it makes you a better person. Remember that the next time you put on that uniform. Case dismissed. The courtroom erupted in quiet applause. The officer, thoroughly humbled, could only nod and walk away. It was a powerful reminder that in the halls of justice, it's not the uniform that matters, but the integrity of the person wearing it. True authority comes from respect and fairness, not from a badge and a swagger. What connects these two seemingly different stories? It's the theme of true power. The bikers showed that true power isn't about violence or intimidation for its own sake. It's about using your strength to protect the vulnerable. They could have scared Chris's stepfather, but instead they empowered Chris through the proper channels, ensuring his long-term safety and showing him what a healthy, supportive community looks like. They used their intimidating presence for good, becoming a symbol of safety rather than fear. Similarly, Judge Caprio demonstrated that true authority doesn't come from a title or a robe. It comes from wisdom, fairness, and humility. He could have simply ruled on the evidence and moved on, but he took the time to teach a life lesson. He reminded the officer and everyone watching that the law is meant to serve everyone equally. He used his platform not just to judge a case, but to uphold the very principles of justice and respect that the system is built on. In both stories, the heroes weren't the ones who shouted the loudest or flexed the most muscle. They were the ones who listened, who showed compassion, and who used their power to lift others up. The bikers gave a little boy a future, and the judge gave a police officer a much-needed lesson in perspective. These are the stories that remind us that kindness is not a weakness, and humility is not a flaw. They are, in fact, the greatest strengths we have. They show us that no matter who you are, a biker, a judge, or just an ordinary person, you have the power to make a profound difference in someone's life, simply by choosing compassion over arrogance and protection over punishment. Thank you so much for watching with us today. If these stories moved you, please hit that like button and share this video with someone who might need a little dose of faith in humanity. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next video. We love hearing from you, so drop a comment below and let us know which story resonated with you the most. Until next time, stay safe and look out for one another.